Welcome to the Study in Holland pre-departure briefing for 2019. My name is Jade Bailey and I'm the Education Promotion Officer at the NISA office based in the Netherlands Embassy in Pretoria.
Yeah, thank you, Jade. My name is Kuchiro Makananise. I'm an intern here for NAFIC, NESO in South Africa. I'm interested in internationalization of higher education. Thank you.
Good, and my name is Mervin Bakker. I will do most of the presentation today, and Jade Fuchilo will be in the back answering all your questions through the chat function.
Awesome. So just before we get started, if we just want to double check if you can hear and if you can see us clearly. So just drop a thumbs up or a hi, hello down in the chat box. There we go. Seems like we are live. So we'll hand over to Mervin to get started.
Okay. Good. Hey, maybe to get started. In the Netherlands and in Dutch universities, we like interactivity. So even though this is a webinar and I will do most of the talking and you cannot talk back, we would like to get you involved through the chat function. If there's anything that you would like to ask, feel free to type the question. I will try to answer it while I'm talking, and if I cannot answer or it doesn't fit in the story at that point, then Jade and Fuchilo will do their best to answer them. Maybe a first question to you from me, and is to which Dutch university are you going? If you can type that in, then we know a little bit on what you guys what the plans are. See TU Delft, and you can all see it. Yeah? Okay, Groningen, UvA. Interesting. Good. And I would also be interested to hear. There's a lot of variety there. Interested to hear what is the level of studies? Are you going to go for a bachelor's or for a master's or a PhD? Okay, there's somebody who has a sound problem. Others with a sound problem, or can others hear well? Let's do a quick check on that. Okay, I think the others can hear me quite well. Yeah. Okay, then hopefully somebody, the person who had a problem, can switch on or switch the volume a bit up. The pre-departure briefing, what is the idea? The idea is that we are going to give you some practical guidelines for your first period in the Netherlands before you leave even, and also to give you a bit more info about what it is like to study in the Netherlands, what it is like to live in the Netherlands, and also towards the end to prepare yourself for the next step after studying, that you become a member of the Holland alumni network. Let me start with the beginning. And the beginning for you is to get this sticker into your passport. It's an entry visa to the Netherlands. They call it an MVV, and it should have your picture. It should have your picture here, and you should get it from the embassy. How it typically works is that the university applies for your visa at the Dutch Immigration Department, and then you will have to hand all the necessary documentation to the university. They will apply, and once they have received the green light from the Immigration Department, they will notify you. And at that point, you will have to go to the Dutch embassy or the Dutch representation and present the letter of the Immigration Department together with your passport and some other documentation that will be listed there. But it's crucial that you have this before you board the airplane. Some other things. It's always good to have a checklist ready before you leave. And to also make sure that you know what you have to bring. Yeah, we made a checklist for you on this slide. The slide The presentation can be sent to you if you like that later on. We're also recording it, and we will put it on YouTube later today or tomorrow, so you can always look at it again. But it has all the logical stuff, from passport to visa to birth certificate, insurance, crucially important, but also your academic background, from your previous diplomas to your admission letter and tuition fee receipts. Just make sure that you bring everything that you have, and also to bring it in your hand luggage. Yeah? So not in your cabin, not in your suitcase, but really in the luggage that you bring into the cabin of the airplane, because customs can ask for some of that documentation upon your arrival in the Netherlands. And also for your valuables, yeah, your phone, your laptop, your camera, please bring it in your cabin luggage and don't put it in your suitcase. If you are on medication that needs prescription, make sure that you not only bring the medication, but also bring the prescription in English. So if people check that you have that with you. And last but not least, very important, due to the Dutch weather, that can be very varied, I would say. Please bring suitable summer and winter clothes. Yeah, it can get quite cold in winter, and in the summer it gets really hot, especially nowadays. Last week it was 40 degrees in some parts of the Netherlands, and this week it's also quite warm. And you have to prepare for that. Okay, once you have put everything ready for your preparation, it's time to arrive at the Schiphol Airport. That's the name of our national airport, and we assume that most of you arrive through there. But the same would go if you arrive at other airports in the country or somewhere else in Europe. At passport control, people will not only check your passport and your visa, but can also ask for other documentation to support the reason why you are staying in the country. Make sure to all bring that again. I cannot emphasize that enough, to bring that in your cabin luggage, because if you cannot produce it and you say it's in my suitcase, then you might actually have to go with customs to the luggage belt, open your suitcase there and get the documentation. That can be quite stressful. After you've picked up your luggage, there's basically two options, but most people go by public transport, unless you have arranged for a pickup or your higher education institution has arranged for pickup. At the airport there's a train station, and most people leave from there by train to their destination. And from there it's possible to go anywhere in the Netherlands, yeah, either via Amsterdam Central Station or directly to the destination where you have to go. We have a pretty handy website. It's www.9292.nl that provides schedules on all public transportation, and where you can type in, I want to go from Schiphol Airport to the address where you have to go, and they will give you a combination of trains and buses or trams that you have to take to get there, including timetables and schedules. So quite handy. At the university, typically the university, the international office will help you with a few things, with your registration at the town hall, with the immigration service there, for your temporary residence permit. If needed, they will help you to apply for a health check, for TBC. They will help you with opening a bank account, and also, of course, they will help you on your way at the university, your library access, those kind of things. So very important to link up with your university and make use of the induction days that they are organizing, typically at the university. And also a request from our friends at the South African Embassy in The Hague is to register with them. They would like to know when you're there, and where you are, so they can also invite you for events that are organized by them during the course of your stay. And it's always nice, we think, to link up with your South African colleagues when you are in the Netherlands. Also at university, some practical stuff. Make sure that you buy a local SIM card. There's two options. You can get a subscription, but most people choose to go for a prepaid version. And here are some of the providers that have a national coverage. So when you buy it there, you can call basically anywhere in the Netherlands and in Europe for that matter. Also very important in the Netherlands to get around is to get a bicycle. Most student cities, of course, have good public transportation, but a bicycle is much more convenient. The distances are short. The Netherlands is a very flat country, and bicycles are used by everyone. And because of that, they're also very much in demand. And that leads sometimes to bicycles being stolen. So not only buy a bicycle, but also one or two decent locks to lock it when you are parking it somewhere. And last but not least, also for your transport, very important to buy an OV chip card, which can be used for all public transportation. It's basically like it's a debit card. You can put money on it through your credit card or by cash. But mostly through credit card, and then it will debit every time you scan it when you enter the train or when you enter a bus or another mode of public transportation. So that's on the practical side. When you arrive, now we move to the Netherlands, and I will just tell you a few brief things. I assume that you already know quite a bit since you are going there, and I'm sure that you've studied already the country a little bit, but just from our perspective, a few words on it. As you can see on the map of Europe, that is here. It's a very small country with the UK to the west, Germany to the east, Belgium and France to the south, and bordered by a lot of water. A very flat country, as I said, and a small one. If you go from north to south, it will take you about 3 hours by car. Or by train, and from west to east, it will be 2.5 hours. Yeah, so it's a very small country, not comparable to the countries in Southern Africa where you guys live. We are a democracy, a constitutional democracy, but also we have a king as head of state, who is largely a ceremonial function, and his name is Prince Willem-Alexander, and his wife is Queen Maxima, who is deeply loved by many Dutch people. Some other things about the Netherlands that you might know: we are famous for tulips, of course, for our knowledge of water management, civil engineering. A large chunk of the Netherlands is below sea level, because of that, we have to work very hard to keep our feet dry, and the knowledge that we've gained over the centuries has led to quite a lot of expertise in the area of water management, both to keep the water out, but also to manage the water that is in the country, and how to deal with that. And that becomes, of course, with the climate change, more and more important. Another iconic thing is cheese. Yeah, we are famous for it. There's a lot. So if you like cheese from the Netherlands, but also from other parts of Europe, then it's a good way to get to know your cheeses through Dutch cheese shops or supermarkets. Something else, football or soccer is the national passion. Also sometimes the national frustration. In the past years, we didn't perform too well, but fortunately enough, since last year we have some really good young players that came up. And they have now moved from the Dutch teams to Barcelona, to Juventus, to Liverpool, and playing really at the highest level. And we do hope to qualify for the Euro in 2020. And if we do, then you will see that the whole country, come June next year, will turn orange. And we hope you can enjoy that as well. Okay, something on the Dutch people. They are very direct in the way they communicate with you, so as in terms of the language they use, but also in the way they behave. Dutch people will not negotiate about answers. They will, yes is yes and no is no. There's nothing in between for them, and it can come across as a bit rude maybe sometimes, but it's not meant as being rude. It's just meant to create clarity. But that might be something that you have to get used to when you first arrive. Yeah, that people are very direct in their communication, but also at the same time very honest. Yeah, so if you want to find a way, and they don't know, they will just be very open to you. So sorry, I don't know. You should ask somebody else. Yeah, the Netherlands is very much a do-it-yourself country, meaning that people are supposed to to arrange most things in their life by themselves, and it might be different than you're used to in your country. I have to say it sounds harsher than it is in reality, because the Netherlands is really designed as a country where you can do everything by yourself. Yeah, there are not many people that, for example, have drivers. There's not many people that have domestic helpers like we're used to here in the southern part of Africa. And at most, people would have a cleaner who comes to the house once, maybe twice a week, to help to keep the house clean. But cooking, groceries, and everything is done by the people themselves. So it's also something that you have to prepare for in your student life. You have to not only take care of your studies, but also of the rest of your life. You have together with maybe your flatmates. You have to make sure that you do your cooking and your groceries and have everything that you can. What else about the Dutch? Maybe to highlight a few things. Yeah, the male-female equality is very important in society. Also, people of all kinds of sexual orientation. There's a lot of tolerance there, also for people from various religions. Dutch people are punctual, yeah, so they really live by the minute. If you come too late for class, for example, you might actually find the door closed. Yeah, and then you're also not allowed to enter anymore. So if it says 9 o'clock somewhere on an invitation or in your schedule, please make sure that you arrive also at the right time. Okay. What else? In the Netherlands, we speak Dutch as our native language, and it's really nice to learn a bit of the language. I will get back to that later on. But to get by, it's not necessary. As you can see on this little map of Europe, 90% of the Dutch population is capable of holding a conversation in English. And in the cities, I would say that's very close to 100%. Maybe only in the rural areas you will find people who are not always capable of having a conversation in English, but most times it's fine. In universities, the language of communication is 100% English, and you will find there no one who cannot speak the language. And this is in sharp contrast to some other countries in Europe. Yeah, typically you will see, apart from the UK, of course, that in Scandinavia, English is very well spoken, just like in the Netherlands. But when you move south and Eastern Europe, the level of English quickly goes down. Yeah, if you look, for example, at Spain with 22%, or Italy 34%, but even France 39%, it will be a bit more difficult to get by. Yeah? It shouldn't prevent you from traveling. Europe is a very nice continent to travel through. We can really recommend that. And you will find in a few hours by train or bus or plane, if you want to fly, that you are in a completely different world, yeah, which is still in Europe, but with a different language, a different culture, different architecture, different food. Although we of course encourage you to study very hard, please also make time of your time in Europe to travel around and discover the continent. Yeah, the distances are relatively small. If you go through student-oriented travel agencies, it's affordable as well. Good. Then I have a question for you, and the question is, why are you going to study abroad? Yeah? Why are you going to study in the Netherlands? What are the main reasons? Yeah. Could you type in 1 or 2 keywords what the main reasons are for you to go and study in the Netherlands? I see that some people, 7, 8 people are typing, so we're just waiting for the responses very quickly. Okay, it's part of your degree at your university. So okay, yeah. So it's like you study in a joint degree. Yeah. Somebody wants to discover cultures, a new continent, because you received a scholarship. Yeah, funding is important, obviously. Somebody's got an intellectual crush on the supervisor. like that, like one. Then what like an intellectual crush, but it's interesting. Okay. Yeah, and the program is only offered. Okay, yeah, good. Now, interesting. So we also came up with a few reasons why to study abroad or why to study in the Netherlands, and it can be your interest or the subject area, your Asian cultures, what someone mentioned, maybe the level of education for your personal development, yeah, an opportunity to learn, yeah. Specific subject area already mentioned. I see water management here a few times and architecture. Yeah, I think it's really interesting to know. But it's also important that you for yourself have that very clear in your mind why you are going to the Netherlands. Yeah? Because many people may have given you advice on why you should go and study abroad. Pro and against. Yeah, that's all possible. And of course you should listen to all the advice of your family and your supervisor and the representatives. But if you are there for the wrong reason, yes, if you only listen to others and not to yourself, then you might struggle when you have landed in the Netherlands. Yeah? Because don't forget that in the end it will be you who has to study for the exams, who has to work hard to hand in assignments on time. And when you are alone at night in the library studying very hard and you don't have clear in your mind why you are there, then things might go wrong. So we don't want to scare you, obviously, and you already made your decision, and I'm sure it's a good one. But it never hurts to think over again. Okay, why am I actually doing this, and why did I think this was such a good idea? But one of the reasons why we think it is a good idea to study in the Netherlands, we are very proud in saying that we are host in our country to a world-class higher education system. If you look at the rankings, for example, consistently in the Times, but also in the QS, there's 13 universities. Trying to make sure it's for the right reason. I'm sure you will. Of course, the 13 the rankings are typically based on rankings of research-intensive universities, and we also have a lot of universities of applied sciences, and I can equally vouch for these universities. Yeah, all universities, regardless of what they teach and what they do research in, they go through a very similar quality assurance procedure. So with the high rankings of the research universities and the quality assurance, we think it's safe to say that whatever happens, you will go for a very good educational experience to the Netherlands. Something on the education system in the Netherlands. We typically start with our degrees in September, especially the bachelor's and masters. For PhDs and people doing short courses, the dates vary. And typically teaching is from September to June. So, for example, compared to South Africa, this is exactly opposite. We work from the end of our summer, that is in September, to the start of our next summer in the academic year. And you guys here in South Africa basically start in January, February until November the year after, yeah, and when it's summer for you here. So we work in opposite directions. We also have, yeah, I would say maybe a different style of teaching in the Netherlands. It's much more student-centered, and problem-based learning is very much used, yeah, that's something you might have to get used to as a student. Also, we have a lot of assignments. Sometimes it's individual assignment. You have to produce a paper, for example, or a presentation. But many times we also try to give you assignments in groups, and that's very interesting. At the same time, it can also be frustrating. If you're in a group with somebody from South Africa, that's you, right? Somebody from the Netherlands, maybe somebody from India, somebody from the US, and somebody from China, and you have to come to a solution. You can imagine that those people with different backgrounds, that they, yeah, that can also cause trouble in the communication and trouble in getting to results. Yeah? So if you are in such a group, and a few hours later you have to present in front of your professor and your classmates, and yeah, that can also give quite a lot of pressure. Yeah? Without stereotyping, maybe some people in the group, they will talk a lot, and maybe others, they will talk very loudly, and some people will say nothing at all, and then you are from South Africa, you're maybe somewhere in the middle, and still with those very different people, you have to achieve something, and that's part of the learning experience. And I can tell you from my own experience, when I studied abroad, it's also an experience that will stay with you for the rest of your life, and it will help you in the future. For example, when you get a management position, to try and put yourself in the shoes of other people, yeah, and make sure that you understand their cultural background and where they come from, and see how you can find each other in the middle and still move forward with your assignment. So I think in the end, the international experience is great, but you should also be realistic, and see that some hurdles might be on your way. Another thing I want to mention, last thing on this slide, is that Dutch lectures and Dutch education is typically very interactive. Discussion is really encouraged, and yes, so don't be quiet in the back row, but really put yourself in the middle of the classroom, or in the front row, and participate actively in the discussion, yeah, because it will add so much more value for your own learning process. Then something on the relation between teacher and students, and some other elements in Dutch teaching. Yeah, we think that Dutch people in general are quite informal, and also the relation between teacher and student, yeah, moves much more to equality and informality than towards formal and hierarchical. And doesn't mean that students do not have or should not have respect for the professors. Of course they have that, but it does mean that you can discuss academic issues on an equal basis, yeah? And it's not uncommon, or actually it's very common for students in Dutch classrooms to discuss openly amongst themselves, but also with the professor, and challenge each other in those discussions, and it's all part of the learning process. In the classroom as well, it's much more based on two-way communication, student-centered, as said, and resources are used a lot. Yeah? So I've been to the Netherlands a few weeks ago, visited quite a lot of universities just for our work context, obviously, and I have to say I'm really impressed by the state of the buildings, the resources available for students, yeah, both digital and offline. And it's really very good and nice environment to study in. Something on credits and grading. In the Netherlands, our grading scale goes from basically from 1 to 10, where everything below 5.5 is a fail, and anything above 5.5 is a pass, and from pass you move on to good, very good, excellent. When you go to the 8.5, and 10, we have to say that from 8.5 to 10, that's very difficult to obtain. So don't be surprised if for your exams you get a 7, and you should also be happy with that, because a 7 is already considered to be a good passing grade. Then something on student life, living in the Netherlands. Typically Dutch people buy their food at supermarkets, and of course, if you want to have special meats, or then you go to specialty stores. But at a supermarket, you can basically get anything, from your fresh meat to your veggies, soft drinks, alcohol, wine, and beer are available in the supermarket, and also some other handy things. Supermarkets are quite convenient. And there's some names of supermarkets that are available here. And Albert Heijn is, for the South Africans in the audience, Albert Heijn is a bit comparable to Woolworths, and maybe Jumbo and Aldi more towards Pick n Pay and Checkers, something like that. I would say that most students do their groceries maybe at the Jumbo and the Aldi, because of budgetary reasons. Shopping, we don't have big shopping malls. Typically, we have shopping streets, all open air with streets on the side. With shops on the side of the streets, usually in the pedestrian areas in the cities, and you can just walk past the shops, and there you would go for your fashion, your shoes, those kind of things. Transport, I think we already mentioned. Networking, please make sure that you link up with student groups at your university. If you are keen on sports, try and join a sports club, or if you play a musical instrument, join a music group. Those kind of things will help you to feel at home very quickly. It's in a way it's an easygoing country, so I'm sure that you will feel home quite quickly, and people are also willing to help always if you get lost in the Netherlands one way or the other. Now let's talk about your landing. Of course, this pre-departure webinar, and hopefully your reading up and your introduction program of the university in the Netherlands will help you to give you a soft landing. And but still, it can happen that you get an education or culture shock, and this can be because it's so different than what you're used to, and it might unsettle you in a way, and you might have had different expectations, and that can result in frustration or you feeling offended. But don't be. It's normal. It's normal when you experience something new, that you will have to look and get used to it. At the same time, many other students from other countries in your classroom feel the same. So my advice would be that if you feel certain things, and talk about it with the other students, but also especially with your lecturers or the other university staff, because they have seen many generations of students, and also are familiar with the different stages of emotions that you guys go through. And if you can really not cope, then there's also your professional support in the university, student counselors, who can help you on your way even further. It's also possible, apart from, let's say, education shock, that you experience a proper culture shock. And there's all kinds of theories about it. That when you, in the different stages of your stay in a country, what phases you go through, and it's very natural to maybe first think that everything is great, and then after a while you like it a bit less, and then you reach a more stable level where you like certain bits and other bits you like better at home. A culture shock is really a state of mind where you cannot cope and cannot emotionally cope with the situation in a new country. And here are some symptoms that you can go through when you feel culture shock. Again, not to scare you, but really to make you aware that this is a possibility, and it's a very natural reaction to a new situation that some people will experience. Maybe to focus on how you can overcome it. I said already about the education shock. That possibly you should talk about it, and especially with people who are in the same situation. At the same time, with culture shock, you will not be able to change the Netherlands. The country has been around for quite a few years and has developed its own way of going. It's the same for South Africa. Sometimes some things I really like here, other things I think, okay, it could be better in other countries. But you also have to accept the fact that I'm not going to change the country. I'm here as a guest, so I have to accept certain things. And that's also my advice to you. Accept it. Stay open-minded where possible, but especially again, socialize. Don't isolate yourself. Hang out with people, friends, other international students. So maybe you can complain together about the Netherlands. That will also make you feel better. And again, be social. Sports clubs, student clubs, anything. And also here, a student counselor. If you are really in trouble, that will be your first port of call. If there's even further trouble, there's really mental unwell-being, then there are also more student counseling in the psychological part. And also very important, stay in touch with your family and friends. Make sure that you, and nowadays with the WhatsApp call, with Skype, it's very easy to and cheap to stay in touch with the home front. And please make sure to do that, so you don't again feel isolated in your new environment. Okay, then something else about living in the Netherlands, the cost of living. Typically, I would say around 1,000 a month. If you euros, if you count on that, then you should be fine. This includes everything: your housing, your food, and your travel. Typically in the Netherlands, housing takes up a very large chunk of your budget. I would say up to 2/3, maybe even more. Food can be expensive if you eat in restaurants every day. If you buy groceries in a smart way and you cook yourself, then food does not have to be expensive. Same for travel. If you use public transportation, then it should be quite affordable. If you would like to work next to your studies, it is possible. A work permit is necessary. Your employer should request for that. And you can work for up to 16 hours per week during the year, or full-time during your the summer break, June, July, August. Something else, if you do not work officially, meaning without a work permit, and you get paid in cash, for example, by your employer, then it also means that you are not covered by insurance. And we don't recommend that, of course, because it's illegal. And actually, and especially in first instance, we would not recommend you to work at all during your studies, especially in the first 3 months. You're there to study. You will have to get used to a new country, a new way of learning. And that requires some time to adjust. So focus on that for the first 3 months, and then afterwards you can also always look into earning some money on the side. On working after your studies, something I should mention, we have a visa called the orientation year visa. It's basically a post-study work visa, and with that visa you can stay for a year after your graduation, and during that year you can work without needing a work permit. So you will be treated equally to a Dutch or European passport holder, and your employer can just hire you legally without a work permit. If he would like to keep you after that year and you would like to stay, then they can apply for a work permit through a simplified procedure. In the end, I would recommend you all to go back to your own country and contribute to your own society. If you can combine study with work in the Netherlands, I would recommend that as well. Because if you study for a 1-year master or 2 years, and you can add 2 or 3 years work to that, then you have so much more to offer and value to add to your own country when you come back. So please consider that, and the benefit is, of course, for yourself, that you would be able to earn some money and to get a return on your investment, but also to build your CV and to make yourself more attractive in the labor market at home. Something practical, and it's already for after you've graduated. Please don't forget to have your degree certificate authenticated. The university will be able to help you out on how to do that, and it's done through a DUO, which is a government agency linked to the Dutch Ministry of Education, and they keep track of the degrees that are issued, and through them you can get the necessary stamps on your diploma. But please don't forget to do it, because it makes life at home much easier. Some tips for your student life. Make sure that you are aware that you are studying in an international environment. So not only Dutch students, but also people from other nationalities. Get together with them, organize international days, international dinners. In the Netherlands, in student houses, it's very common to make a schedule for a household chores like dishwashing or cleaning. We recommend you to go along with it, to try to get to know your city through other students at your institution, and also through the people that you meet outside. Some useful websites for you. Before we give the floor to you to ask questions, the embassy website, the South African Embassy in the Netherlands, that is. Then of course our website, NESO South Africa, that's a good one. The Holland Alumni Network, we recommend you actually to register already now at the Holland Alumni Network, because it gives you access to South Africans who studied in the Netherlands already, who might be able to give you tips. After graduation, you can stay part of the network and be organized all kinds of events here in South Africa, but also in the Netherlands. When you're there, the Holland Alumni Network organizes, for example, career days and sometimes also training in certain things. And some other website that might be of your interest. There is another place. It's called Hoi Holland. Hoi means hi in the Netherlands, and it's just to encourage you to learn a little bit of Dutch during your stay. You can also study it if you want to. Most universities they offer courses in Dutch for very low fees, or even for free. Although not absolutely necessary, as I mentioned before, we do think it's nice if you learn some Dutch. It will make your time in the Netherlands much more valuable, and your quality of living, we think, as well. And if you are serious about obtaining an internship or a job, it also helps. The better your Dutch is, the easier it becomes to get access to those opportunities. Then I think the last slide I would like to talk to again, the two most important websites we think is nesosouthafrica.org and hollandalumni.nl. Please register there. And with that, I'm going to give over to Jade, right? I would like to thank you a lot for your attention. I will be around, so I might say something later on, but if not, then I wish you a great time in the Netherlands, safe trip first and foremost, back and forth, but especially a great time studying in the Netherlands, getting to know my country, and hopefully also starting to love my country a little bit. Thanks a lot, Jade.
Thank you. So guys, I've just dropped my direct contact details in the chat box if any of you have any questions that you don't want to ask on this platform. And then we've also just listed our popular social media contacts and our handles. So Facebook, Twitter, and slowly but surely growing our Instagram account as well. And then just like I mentioned to Tanya in the chat box, if you have already been to Holland, please contact us for testimonials. And those of you that are leaving us now, please also stay in touch, because we want to grow our testimonial database. We want you to do Instagram takeovers, Facebook posts, etc., and just kind of document your journey with us. So now it's just a simple Q&A session. If you have any questions, just drop it down in the chat box for us. Seems like everyone is okay. Everyone's typing thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mervyn. Awesome. I did see a visa email, a visa question. I think Fuchilo can just help us find it again. And then everyone started sending or typing. So we kind of lost that one. Is the PhD program starting now in September or in January? It starts in September.
Sorry?
Is that the NAFIC, the NRF NAFIC program?
Depends on the
Yeah.
It depends on the Dutch and the South African university.
Yeah, so you have to go and check your admission letter. So it would depend on which institution you are joining and also on the supervisor. So depending on your research agreements. And then don't forget to check the NRF website today. Hopefully the list will be published this afternoon and we'll also share it on our platforms. Mervyn, I think that's a question for you.
Okay, I will join you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will sit next to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the chip card. Is there an international student one?
The OV chip card is just a chip card you can purchase publicly, and it can be done by any person from any nationality. So there's no specific international OV chip card. There's still quite a few people
typing.
There was not a thank you. Is there an age limit to studying in Holland, and are all fields of study economic? Yeah, that's it's a good question. It's more for people still in the orientation phase, I would say. There's no age limit. Yeah, we don't discriminate against age in the Netherlands, and I would say that we have all fields of study covered. But please go to studyfinder.nl. That's a website. Maybe Fuchilo can type it in, www.studyfinder.nl. And there you can find all the study programs that we offer in the Netherlands at higher education institutions in the English language. Okay. Is alcohol expensive? Well, that's always relative, of course. So what is expensive? It's just like here in South Africa. Yeah? The better the wine, the higher the price. I would say in general, in supermarkets, not overly expensive, not like Scandinavia, for example, but also not cheap. There's always government taxes on alcohol. In bars and restaurants, it's more expensive. Yeah, but don't drink too much during your studies. It's not good for your study results. Okay, there's one other person still typing. Yes, you can. Well, the MVV visa is an entry visa, so that will bring you into the Netherlands, and with that you will get a residence permit and a stamp in your passport, and with that you can travel freely in the Schengen countries. Regarding visiting home, is it possible to visit home twice a year? Time-wise, yes. If you go around Christmas, it should give you 2 or 3 weeks, and in summer longer. But throughout the year, yeah, if you look at the academic year running from September to June, I would say only in the Christmas periods it's feasible. If you stay for more than 1 year, then you can also do it in the summer. And of course, it depends also on your budget, or if you talk about scholarships, about the conditions in your scholarship program. Okay. There's Still somebody else typing except for Vucilo. If you go for shorter than 3 months, then an MVV is not applicable. No. Then you just get an entry visa based on your, depending on the passport that you hold, based on your admissions letter from university. Good. Well, since the questions are few, or actually none at the moment, I think we should leave it here. If you look at the last slide, you can see all our contact details, and Jade has also shared them during the webinar. And feel free at all times to contact us by email, by phone, through our social media, direct messages. It's all possible. We are open 5 days a week, and we try to get back to you as soon as you can. Thanks a lot for joining us. Anything you would like to say?
Thanks, everyone. Good luck and enjoy the Netherlands.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.